everyone. So for today's video, I wanted to show you guys our new wood stove that we just got. This is something that we were really excited to add to our property. We've been wanting this ever since we moved here about almost 2 years ago now, and we finally got it. So I wanted to do a really in-depth video showing you guys our new wood stove because we absolutely love it and we are so excited, and we just got it installed yesterday. We just finished it. So it is completely ready to go. And I wanted to show it to you guys in its perfect mint out of the crate condition so that you guys can see what it looks like if you were to order a stove like this and install it in your home. So we actually picked this stove out a couple years ago, but it took a really long time to get, which I'm going to talk about. But we're so excited to get into the details of it today. When we were looking for a stove to get, and specifically once we had picked this stove, the LaNordica Rosa L, there was not a lot of videos online that were super in-depth that could answer all of my questions about this stove. So I'm hoping that is what we can do for you today, because I really want a comprehensive video and literally explain to you guys from floor to ceiling how to install the stove, details about the stove, and the little quirks and things that go along with the stove that you really can't find anywhere online. So I thought this video would be helpful. Okay, so before we jump into the stove and all of the details and aspects of that, let's talk about the floor first, because that is literally the first thing you have to do in the base for your stove or wood stove that you get. So every wood stove has to have a non-combustible flooring or hearth, and this is the hearth that we decided to do. So Patrick knows a lot more about it than I do, but I'll give you an overview. So we actually decided to go with a brick base, and underneath the brick base is like a really thin cement board. Do you know how thick it is?
1/4 of an inch.
A 1/4 inch, okay. So we have a 1/4 inch cement board underneath, which is also basically flame retardant, or it's non-combustible. And then we have our brick and mortar on top of that. And the brick that we chose, we actually special ordered this brick. It is the basically half brick, so it's a special ordered half brick. It's very thin, very fragile actually. We broke a lot of them because they're just so thin. But once you mortar them in, they're solid. It's amazing. But we didn't want this pad to be super tall because we didn't want to trip on it, like walking up to cook on the stove. So we special ordered this. I believe it was from Lowe's. Isn't that where we got it?
Yep.
Yeah. We special ordered this half brick from Lowe's. So this is actually 3 boxes of the half brick that was able to do a perfect size hearth for the stove, and that is with us losing a few pieces to being cracked and broken, and we had to toss them. But 3 boxes was exactly enough to completely do the hearth to the size the hearth has to be for this particular model stove. We did a wooden framing around it just to make it a smooth transition, and we did stainless. This is also from Lowe's. It is just a really fancy quarter round, honestly, like you would use for your house. The brick that we chose is Castle Gate. That is the color. And then we did biscuit mortar mix. It's basically an off-white. It's not gray, it's not white, it's kind of a beige or tan. So it looks a little bit whitewashed, and I really love that. I think it just looks really nice, and it goes with our house. So that is the hearth that we did. The hearth measurements are according to the stove. So for the LaNordica Rosa L, it has to be about, is it 18 inches out the front?
16
inches out the front, 8 inches on the side. So it has to be at least 8 inches of a non-combustible flooring. You can use tile or brick, but it just can't be your hardwood or any type of wood or linoleum flooring. And then it has to be 8 inches on either side, and then it has to be 16 to 8 inches on the back. However, we chose to go 2 foot from the wall so that there is no heat on our wall. And then we'll talk more about that in a minute. But basically, we did 24 inches, and we had to do that because of the stovepipe. Where the stovepipe is placed through our ceiling, that just worked best to have it that far. So it's really far from our back wall, which is a really good thing. So yeah, it's basically 16 on the front, 8 on the sides, and then 24 to the back wall. And that is the placement of the hearth. I cannot believe they just did that. I cannot believe they did that. Making me nervous.
You're doing good. Say you're doing good.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe it.
There it is.
whenever you order your wood stove, I assume from wherever you get it from, there will be a manual and also an installation guide. So if you were to get our stove, specifically the LaNordica Rosa L, or actually any LaNordica stove, because this manual is for the Rosa XXL, the Rosa L, and the Millie. So if you get any of those stoves, you will get a manual that looks like this. It is very thorough, very thick, and it's in American and Italian. And then if you get your stovepipe, which this is the brand stovepipe we got, they also give you an installation manual for that. Talks about your warranty on there and everything. We decided to get our stove through Obadiah's. So they were very, very good, honestly. Loved Obadiah's. They're based in Montana, so there's no sales tax. So if you go on their website at discountstoves.net, the price you see on the stove is more than likely the price that it will be, unless there's some random price change you don't know about or they haven't updated. It's accurate for our stove on the website, so that's what we paid. This stove did cost us about $3,700. It's $36.95 on the website, no tax, like I said. And then if you want any additional add-ons, which we're going to talk about, I did get something extra. You'll have to pay for that separately. But literally just out of the box, it was $3,600 for the stove. Now the stovepipe is additional, so we did have to order the stovepipe separately. That's a whole package that they will work up for you at Obadiah's. This video is not sponsored, by the way, not paid by anything. I just am really excited about my stove, and I want this to be helpful to anyone who is in our situation where we had no idea where to begin and where to start, and so I hope this video is helpful. So the stovepipe that you choose for your stove, you have two options generally. You can get a double wall stovepipe and a single wall. We went with double wall because single wall stovepipe, let's say it's a 6-inch pipe, which is what this stove uses, it gets really hot. So there's no air chamber essentially to prevent the heat from radiating off of that pipe. And because I'm gonna be cooking on this stove, at least that's my hope and I plan on it, I'm gonna be cooking a lot. I don't wanna accidentally hit that pipe with my hand, moving a pot or something, and burn myself. So we went with double wall. It actually is an 8-inch outer. That's why it has this piece here. That is basically a, what's it called?
Adapter.
An adapter, that's it, thank you. It's an adapter piece that helps that stovepipe sit on there because the inner wall is 6 inches, which is, again, what fits on here, but this outer makes it 8 because there's 2 inches of air that is giving that stove that space so that it doesn't heat up. So this pipe should not radiate heat when the stove is on, so we really love that. Also, if you do get a double wall pipe where this isn't gonna be hot when it's on, you can also have that pipe closer to the wall. Again, check with your codes, check with your installation guides, look at your type of stove if you don't get this one exactly, and it'll tell you how far away from the wall you have to keep everything. But generally with a double wall, you can have it closer to the wall. We didn't. Our stove is very far from the wall. We're just trying to be super, super, super safe with it, so ours is further, but it's fine. Another thing that you'll get is if you go on Obadiah's website and pull up the stove you want, let's say you get this one, if you go down to the spec details, there's lots of stuff to print off, and it has installation. I mean, there's so much that you can print off that will help you. I mean, it's just lots of resources through Obadiah's. It's really, really great, and we used all of it. So, all right, so while I can't really go over exactly how to install the stovepipe 100% because Patrick did it, number one. Number two, it was a lot, and it's like on the roof type stuff I can't show you. I am gonna show you what it looks like now that it's finished and the pipe is installed in the ceiling from the outside. Hi, baby. Hi. Hi. Does it look right?
Yeah.
Okay. It's good. The one thing I will tell you is it is best to install your stovepipe the closest to your peak that you can of your house. Our peak is directly down the center of our house, so we have this away from the furthest wall because the closer to the wall you get, the roof is angled down and that pipe is going to be sticking really far because you have to go about 2 foot above your peak minimum so that you get a good updraft and it'll pull your smoke out. If you do not do your pipe tall enough, then whenever you light your stove, there's not going to be any draft to pull the smoke out of your pipe and your house is going to fill up with smoke and it's just not going to work. So you have to have at least about 2 feet above the peak is what they recommend for your pipe, and Obadiah's calculates all that for you. You just have to give them all your roof measurements and everything. It's really great. So this spot was really great for us because it's only about 4 foot from our peak, so that's pretty close. And then it is about a little over 2 foot above the peak outside, and you'll see that. I'll show that to you guys. If you have any questions or concerns, we had lots of questions about the install of the stovepipe. Call Obadiah's. If you choose to buy through Obadiah's, their customer service was great, and they were really helpful, and they helped us through all the confusion because there was a lot of pieces to the pipe, so it was really helpful. But all right, on to the stove. So like I mentioned, this is the LaNordica Rosa L. This is an Italian stove made in Italy. It's Italian made. It is made of stainless steel and cast iron. It's mostly cast iron, but there is a lot of stainless steel involved with it. And honestly, it's just really sleek. It's really nice, and it's a really, really beautiful stove. The first thing I guess I'll talk about is the top of the stove. So this stove in particular has a center flue. So it has the center pipe here as opposed to one of the corners. A lot of stoves come with the pipe in the corners. We really like the center, and when we picked the stove, we just really liked that placement, and we were really happy with that. If you were to get the Rosa reverse, I do believe the pipe is on that side, so that's something to keep in mind. This stove has 2 eyes on the top, 2 burners, which is really great because this entire metal hot plate will get hot, so you have gradient heat whenever you have your pots on here. Because the Firebox is located directly below this one, this is going to be your hottest eye, and then obviously this end over here will be cooler, and so on and so forth. So another thing that's really cool about this stove is these eyes are actually removable. So you can actually take these plates off individually. Obviously, you're not going to want to pick it up with your hand. It does come with a tool to do that. But if you wanted to cook over open fire, for instance, if you're going to use like a wok or something, or if you just need to access your Firebox for any reason, you can just continue removing these plates. Just like that. You can just continue taking them out, not with your fingers, but they're extremely heavy. And then they just go back in like that. And you can basically also, they say you can take these out and you can fill your Firebox that way if you really wanted to do top fill, but I mean, why bother? You can just do it through the door, but it is an option. Another thing that will help you control the heat on this stovetop, obviously this is your hot side, this is your cool side, but you can also work your dampers down here, and this is how you're gonna control, which we're gonna go over that in a second. That's how you control how hot your stove is getting, and then also how hot the top is. Another thing that controls the heat up here is this little knob right here. You might not be able to see good, but there is actually a how-to kind of plate right here that shows if you have this pushed in, it makes the hot plate on top hot. If you're wanting to bake in the oven, you're gonna want to pull this out and it will actually open up. I'll show you inside here. I'll show them how to do it. So this is really cool, and I love that you can access this. So this little piece right here that I was just showing you, go right here. So this little hot plate, if it is in, that makes this open, which means that heat is gonna come right through here and it's gonna make that really hot. If you wanna trap that heat in here, because if it goes through this hole, it's gonna make this hot plate hot, but that heat is gonna escape through this hole and go right up through that pipe. The heat isn't gonna circulate in a square around the stove. So if you close this by pulling it out, then that heat is gonna be trapped. It's gonna go through here, it goes down the side of the stove, and then it goes up and out the pipe. So it actually heats the oven and makes the oven a lot hotter. So that is really handy. So this little button here controls whether your eye is hot or whether the oven is hot. So that's pretty handy. So the next thing we're going to talk about is the front of the stove. So as you can see, obviously both doors are glass. That's something I really, really love. I love that I'll be able to see the fire and my food cooking at the same time. That was really important to me. a lot of wood stoves that they sell will have a glass firebox, but will not have a see-through oven door. For instance, like the Essie, I love the Essie Iron Heart stove. That stove is beautiful. That was my first choice stove actually, but with inflation, it's now around $6,000, which is just astronomical. So this was my second choice, and I really love the stove, so I'm happy with it. And honestly, I really like this better than the Essie because I'll be able to see the food. The other thing that I'll point out is it does have a gauge here to show you how hot your oven is. Now, this has the Celsius and Fahrenheit, which I love that because in America, that's how we gauge our food cooking. So I really love that it has both on there. And there is a probe on the inside of the oven door, so it will tell you the temperature. The next thing over here is obviously the firebox. I mentioned this, but this is your damper. You have two dampers. It has a little gauge here, which you can't really see it because it's kind of indented into the wood, in the metal. But basically it has a open and close, kind of, it's like an angled, you can't see it that far away. But basically over here is all the way open. So whenever you open this and load the firebox up with your wood, you will load it up. You'll close it and make sure this damper is all the way open, and then as your fire gets going and gets hot, you can move it and close it a bit more, let's say halfway, just to make sure it doesn't get too crazy hot. You can even close one of these all the way and leave one of them open. You can just kind of play with it, see what you like, see how hot you want your fire. But for getting your fire started, definitely leave them open. The firebox has some Firestone, fire brick, I guess is what it's called. There's like 6 of them in there. Those are replaceable, but they're pretty expensive, so be careful, don't break them. They are already installed whenever your stove is delivered to you. The firebox size is 11.6 inches by 12 inches high, and then it is 18.1 inches deep, so it is a very sizable firebox. This particular stove can heat up to 1,400 square foot, so it should be able to heat our entire upstairs, which is really nice. Our home is bigger than that, but we're really only worried about the main living area, so I think it's going to do great for us. It also has a grate here where the ash falls through. So here's the fire brick I was talking about, and then here's the grate. The ashes will fall down through this grate into this ash tray down below. Whenever you want to clean out your ashes, you'll just pull this out completely, and then you'll be able to dump those into something that's fire safe, like a metal pail or, you know, a metal trash can or something, and then that is pretty easy to do. It is located directly below that firebox. Obviously, this is not really noteworthy, but this is the LaNordica sticker that comes on the front, and then of course the tag is still on it. This is unused, brand new condition. We will have to remove those before you get your fire started, obviously. I mean, this would literally melt off, so you make sure you take it off. Another thing to mention is with the LaNordica Rosa stoves, especially the XXL2, the Rosa L and the XXL come with these tiles on the front. We have swapped our tiles out. However, they come standard with red tiles. We have 2 tiles, which is signature for the Rosa L. The Rosa XXL has 3 tiles, and that's how you know it's the bigger of the 2 stoves. They all come standard with the red. However, LaNordica was so nice and they sent us the black ones. I really wanted the black. I don't really care for the red. And so we swapped those out, and I think it looks really sleek. And so we have the black tiles on there, and it looks really good. We didn't have to pay extra for those. They just sent them. So that was really nice because I didn't think we were going to be able to get them, and I really wanted them. So that was really nice. One thing to mention about the Rosa XXL, since I'm talking about it, and with its 3 tiles, it is worthy to note, if you do choose to get the XXL, that's the one I see the most reviews for on YouTube, not this one. It is nice that it's the bigger stove. However, the firebox is the exact same size. So in that width, you're getting a bigger stove by, I believe it's 4 or 5 inches, I think. But that 4 or 5 inches is only on the end, and it's a bigger oven, not a bigger firebox. So the heat output is gonna be pretty similar. It is a bigger surface area of metal getting hot, so maybe it's a little warmer. I didn't look into the specs on that, but do note it is just a bigger oven, so it's not a bigger firebox. So for me, I didn't find it worth it to get the XXL, and I'm really happy with the size of this one because it's perfectly big enough for what we want it for, which is primarily cooking and heating the home. Due to EPA regulations, technically this stove is exempt because, long story short, there's a whole bunch of mess with the EPA in the United States. They love cracking down on people to keep people from you know, being self-sufficient in terms of heating and cooking for themselves. So unfortunately, modern wood stoves have a lot of regulations on them. However, like I was saying, Cookstoves, as of 2 years ago, they're exempt from those regulations for the most part, as long as they have a large oven, cooktop, etc. You can research that on your own. There's a lot of rules and regulations around the EPA stuff. Because this is a cook stove, they know that you're primarily going to be using it to cook, so it's totally fine. You can have it and there's no issues with that. Do check with your homeowner's insurance too. A couple of our relatives are having issues with that, so our homeowner's insurance, we just added this to the policy in case, God forbid, there's any accidents, and it was really simple. We just had to take pictures, send in a bunch of paperwork. I sent them all of this stuff, the links, everything, and they got the picture pretty clearly and they said it was fine. So we had no problem with our homeowner's insurance, but you'll just have to check with your insurance. The next thing to note is this stove does have a pan drawer down here at the bottom. It slides out, rolls really, really nicely. It is just for pans and things like that. Something that I'm probably gonna store in here is, I actually bought an extra rack. I mentioned this earlier about me buying something extra. So these metal racks are for cooking your food, obviously, to hold your pots and pans and things in there. This comes standard with one rack and one roasting tray. This roasting tray comes standard in there. So you can see, this is a really sizable roasting tray. Definitely big enough if you wanted to roast, say, a rotisserie style chicken, a large chicken, you could definitely put this on here. I would probably put it in a Dutch oven with a lid and then pop it in there so that it cooks evenly, but you could put cookies, biscuits, whatever. And then this is the pan. This comes standard. I decided to buy an extra oven rack because I want to be able to bake multiple things at a time. So I did buy two. This was $85 for one extra rack. You actually purchase that whenever you order your oven, and it will be sent to you from Obadiah's, not through LaNordica. So that's something to mention. But if you wanted to, you could store this stuff down here like that. Now, one thing I do want to show you about the doors, there's going to be a difference in the doors. I'm going to show you this because I didn't see anybody cover this. Notice how when I open the oven door, it stays open, and notice what happens with the fire door. It's going to close. Now, I know it sounds abrupt, but it's got gaskets, it's fine. But if you notice that, this door is on a spring. It is going to close. It's a safety feature. It's going to close on its own. If you are not paying attention to it, this door will not stay open like the oven door does. The oven door is so that it doesn't pull back and hit you when you're getting your food in and out. But I do love that the Firebox is on a spring, and that door is going to stay closed even if you forget to lock it closed, because you don't want that fire roaring with that door open. The handles are really heavy duty. They're very strong. They're not loose at all. They're super nice, and you can secure that door closed and it's not coming open. It's really, really nice, really good quality. All right, another thing I'm going to mention for the stove, which is not part of the stove situation, it is this fan that you can buy. This is just like a kinetic heat fan. When the stove is on and roaring, you can buy this fan, and as this top heats up, this fan is going to start spinning and it'll push your heat wherever you angle it. So if we wanted heat to go down the hallway, we could do this and it'll start pushing down the rest of the house. So you can just put that wherever you want. You can get multiple. I've seen people have 3 of these on here. They'll have one this way, that way, and forward. I mean, you can just get as many as you want, but that is pretty nice because it does not require electricity, which is great because that's the whole point of this. Another thing I would do and mention with wood stoves is these get very hot and they will dry out your house. So make sure when this is on, you keep a pot of hot water. It'll be hot, but just keep a pot of water on the top of the stove and it will be like a humidifier, a natural humidifier. That's something to mention because it will dry out your house. So I hear. We are gonna find out very soon. So we'll probably put a pot of water on the top to keep the house humid. The last thing I'll mention that I can really think of is the belly bar. As you can see, there's a really nice silver chrome bar that goes around the whole stove. This is a belly bar so that when you're here cooking, if you were to lean forward or you just want to lean, I don't advise it, but if you do, this will catch your stomach or your clothes before you hit the hot stove. So it's just another safety feature. Really nice stove by LaNordica. They did a really good job with it and I'm just really impressed. We absolutely love it. We haven't even used it yet, but we love it. I'm 5'0", so if that gives you an idea of how tall the stove is compared to me. and our pad is about 3/4 of an inch tall. So yeah, that's pretty much the size of it. I can't think of any other details. If I think of anything, I'll put it in the description box down below, but I believe that is it. That is my review and how-to and helpful tips for the LaNordica Rosa L wood cook stove. We absolutely love it. Haven't even used it yet, but we're already in love. It just looks so sleek and so nice. One thing I will mention, as you can see, we have our wood paneling from the 80s when the house was built. That's what our back wall is. If you have the stove 18 inches or even less or whatever from the wall, you will need to put some sort of a non-combustible wall backing. This is an example of what you can use. You would basically just do like a metal, give it an airspace, like an inch or so in between that metal and the wall, whatever wall you use. You could also use like a cement board. Check with your codes, check the installation booklets, and talk to whoever you buy your stove from, whether it's Obadiah's or whoever. But typically it will need to be either a cement board, brick, tile, or metal. And you would basically just take this all the way up to the ceiling, especially if you don't have a double wall stovepipe. Depending on the stove you get, maybe your double wall stovepipe is enough because of the distance and you only need to put it behind the stove portion. I don't know, you're gonna have to check with your codes and things. However, because our stove is literally 2 feet from, I mean, there's like a 2-person gap here. Our stove is so far off the wall, per our instructions, installation, Obadiah's, and our homeowner's insurance, we don't have to put anything behind it because the hearth goes so far on the back and there's a lot of open air, so the wall should not get hot. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that it was helpful more than anything. I hope it answered any questions you might have about the LaNordica Rosa L or any wood stove type questions at all. I really tried to cover everything that I could think of or remember. We really love the stove. We plan on probably lighting it up this afternoon, probably right after this video, honestly. If I do, I'll install some clips of that in the video and you can see what it looks like lit up for the first time. We do have to do first burn. We haven't done that, so there's gonna be a lot of smoke because we gotta burn this oil off the top. This top will not look this silver and pretty once it gets hot. All this oil is gonna burn off and then it's gonna change color and be really seasoned, so we're probably gonna be doing that today. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope it was helpful. And if I think of anything else, I'll put it in the description. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Be kind. Bye.